cost. So the best way to purchase a DVD or to make further inquiries is simply by calling the Office of Campus Ministry, which is also the place where we have the Center for Jewish Catholic Muslim Learning. Basically, if you just call King's and switchboard and ask for either the priest or the nun or anybody else that works in the area, you'll eventually get to our office and we'll take good care of you. Anyway, once again, I'm going to step aside. I thank you all for being here. I think in a very, very particular way, the many different groups that are coming here this evening to lead us in song and prayer and hymnody and to educate us and to bring us all closer together. So with a spirit of gratitude, I turn over the floor now to Murray Watson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Murray Watson, and on behalf of the King's Center for Jewish Catholic Muslim Learning, I'm very honored to be able to welcome you this evening to Melodies Pleasing to God, our first ever opportunity as a center to bring together members of the local Abrahamic communities for an evening to share together their traditions of chanting and recitation that are such an integral part of the prayer life of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This evening has been almost a year in the planning, and I am deeply grateful to the leaders of our local mosques, synagogues, and churches who have shown such interest and such active support in helping to bring this evening together. I'm also particularly grateful to Stephen State, a former member of the board of our center, who initially set the wheels in motion and began the planning for what tonight has become. Stephen is here this evening and this morning welcomed a granddaughter into his family. Mazel tov. Although at various times and places musical instruments have had a key role in religious ceremonies and prayers, it is the human voice, the instrument created by God, that in all three of our religious communities we have privileged as the foremost and the greatest of all instruments. In many of our traditions, it is the human voice unaccompanied, which intones some of our most solemn, important, and meaningful creeds and prayers in our respective religions. Tonight, therefore, is a wonderful cross-section of generous representatives who will make up the program, who will offer us the opportunity to hear and appreciate a small sample of the chanted or recited texts which sustain and animate Islam, Judaism, and Christianity in their communal prayer. In preparing for this evening, we are deeply aware that these are three traditions with long, rich, and diverse musical and prayer traditions, and there is obviously no way that we can hope to offer more than a tiny sampling of those traditions here tonight. That is one of the unfortunate drawbacks of a limited time like we have. We do hope, however, that you will leave here this evening with some small taste of the beauty and inspirational power of those traditions, and that your thirst to experience more of them will be whetted. We hope that the enthusiasm and energy that has been part of tonight's gathering will mean that this is only the first such event and not the last. And hopefully in the future, we will be able to delve even more deeply into the rich tapestries of chant and recitation that characterize our faiths. We recognize the limitations of tonight, and we apologize in advance that we have not been able to touch adequately or even representatively the many strands and languages and modes of Jewish and Christian chant and Islamic recitation. But tonight is, we hope, an important beginning, and for that reason, the program for this evening offers you some helpful historical and musical context and the specific texts in English of what you will be hearing this evening in Latin, Greek, Arabic, and Hebrew. We encourage you to read through that material at your leisure and perhaps to take those programs home and share them with people in your communities. Tonight, in addition to a wide range of local religious representatives, we are very honored to welcome to London Marcia Egger, who is tonight's keynote speaker. Marcia comes to us from Ithaca, New York, by way of the Benedictine Abbey of Glenstal in Ireland, where she is currently in residence. Much of her adult life has been dedicated to communication and the human voice as a speech therapist and as someone who has been very involved in musical theater. But in the last 20 years, it has been in the fields of meditation, contemplative practice, and religious chant that she has dedicated her passion and her study. Most recently, she received her master's in ritual chant from the Irish World Academy of Song and Dance at the University of Limerick in Ireland, and she has taught and lectured widely on the place of chant in the world's religious traditions. She's a published author, a mom, and an artist who believes that religious chant has a unique power and potential to bring the world's peoples together in religious harmony and peace, a belief that is the vision that animates the work of our center here at King's and reflects the growing interreligious curiosity and vision of many people in our world. This evening, Marcia will provide us with an overview of the role of religious chant generally, and will offer introductions to the place of chant in each of the three Abrahamic faiths as a prelude to the prayer texts that will then be offered by each of them. A warm welcome to all of you to King's this evening, and a particularly warm welcome to Marcia Egger, tonight's keynote speaker.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored and truly thrilled to be here and a part of this very special and important evening here at King's University College. An evening especially planned for the sharing of our sacred music traditions, in particular, the unique chant, recitation, and cantillation of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. We are blessed and honored to spend this evening together, gaining new insights and knowledge about one another, and having this special opportunity to be awashed, by the unique tonal qualities and sacred languages of the expression of the divine that we'll be hearing this evening. Indeed, melodies pleasing to God. I want to thank Reverend Michael and his board for extending the invitation to be a part of this evening. Michael and I met a couple of years ago at Glenstall Abbey, which is where I just magically ended up residing as I was studying for ritual chant in Ireland, and where we talked last year about the possibilities of such an evening. I was delighted with the invitation and remain so. I extend a special thank you to you, Murray, for all the support and help, and for your hard work in organizing this special and significant evening of sharing. And for all of you who are presenting, and for those of you who have come to listen and to learn, thank you for allowing me to share this evening with you. I'm convinced that it's through this type of gathering that we have a significant opportunity not just to impart our distinctive chant traditions and style of chanting, but to realize in the process that that which is unique in its expression is also what is common to all of us, chant. This evening, we will witness the great variability of musical styles and articulation among and within faith traditions. A definition of chant might be important to this evening, and yet, because of the great variability of musical styles and articulation, a single definition of chant is difficult. But for our purposes this evening, we might understand chant as an intimate and unique vocalized expression of sacred text and/or core religious tenets of the world's religious traditions. These are not spoken, but rather sung phrases of sacred texts set to unique modal melodies and styles distinctive to each. The same could be said of hymns. However, typically hymns are more metered, like poetry, verses and stanza. A hymn tune sustains the sequential progression of the poetry by being recycled for each stanza. Sequential structures are typically literary in form. Chant can be more cyclical in nature, like the Taizé chanting we'll hear this evening, or they can be very stylized, like the expression of sacred text that is recited or cantillated in very particular rhythmic and tonal delivery of Judaism and of Islam. The key religious texts in all the world's religious traditions are almost always sung or chanted, performance rather than merely read aloud. For each of these traditions, the chanting or cantillation of a body of texts brings them alive, makes them indeed living texts. Dr. Guy Beck, author of Sacred Sound, said that from the beginning of their respective traditions, devout prophets, kazans, cantors, priests, friars, ministers, mullahs, imams, pundits, gurus, ragis, swamis, monks, shamans, and others have chanted and sung Jewish psalms, Quranic verses, Islamic calls to prayer, Hindu slokas and bhajans, Sikh shabads, and Buddhist surahs. Oral practice from its earliest time was often upheld as statutory and formally sustained within the traditions themselves. As Hebrew scholar Joshua R. Jacobs notes, Jewish law requires that ritual texts be chanted. According to Dr. Beck, the Quran in Islam is not considered authentic when it is studied in translations or read silently. The highest accolades are given to those who memorize the entire text in Arabic, demonstrating their skills in unaided oral recitation. Buddhist sutras and mantras are always chanted or intoned aloud, as are important Sikh prayers or songs. For thousands of years, Hindu dharma, or law, forbade the writing or reproducing of certain holy texts. The Vedas are believed to have been passed down orally for 3,000 years. The chanting and hearing of sacred verses and mantras still constitute the most common form of access to Scripture for the multitude of the pious in Hinduism, Islam, and Judaism. And before Vatican II in the 1960s, Gregorian chant with its Latin text also played a similar role in the liturgy of the Catholic Church across the world. Chant has the power to find common ground between spiritual paths, and the chant of other traditions can move us deeply. For chant offers the direct experience of what we will read in our sacred text. Chant is the doorway to the divine. Whatever the mode, whatever the rhythm or tune, by whatever holiness is invoked in the living, breathing variation of chant, one can find the divine. This age of global interconnection in which we live, made possible through technology and easy travel, is also one of interspirituality, writes Brother Wayne Teasdale in The Mystic Heart. When we examine the relations among religions today, what we find is traditions increasingly discovering and pursuing the real experience of community, especially among individuals. Throughout history, members of different traditions have entered into deep, meaningful dialogues which rose out of amicable relations between the communities, unquote. They also come together to chant, as illustrated by this evening's purpose and program. So let us begin. My task at hand is to give you some insight into each chanting tradition, and then each of the presenters will more fully enlighten you. As you listen, I invite you to close your eyes, at least some of the time, and to deeply enter into the spirit of the chant that you are listening to. Each of the chants or cantillations of text, each sung in its sacred language, has the power to transform us. If we open up to deep listening, we will feel that transformative power of each of the traditions that we hear. We'll begin this evening with Judaism. Devotion can take many forms. In Judaism, its primary articulation is through chanting or cantillation. Jewish prayer is sacred text performed. In traditional Jewish worship, the leader and the congregation might not pray, but rather daven. In the Eastern European tradition, to daven is to sing and to sway and to bow. To daven, one must bring the proper intention or kavanah, piety or devotion, while considering the meaning of prayers. For over 3,000 years, the Jewish people have come together to worship in song. behind the murmured tones, there exists an ancient and annotated system called trope for chanting of the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, with particular scales and melodies for each book and musical modes for every category of prayer. There are 3 ways in which prayer is transmitted during traditional Jewish worship: cantillation, psalmody, and modal chant. Cantillation has its roots in the public reading of the Bible as far back as the 1st century. The prescription for cantillation is set by the Talmudic scholars of the times. The Talmud, an important book of Jewish law containing the laws and interpretations for prayer and practice, say that the Bible should be read in public and made understood to hearers in a musical, sweet tone. And he who reads the Pentateuch or Torah without tune shows disregard for it and the vital values of the law. The melodies and musical practices of Jewish chant are varied and the direct result of Jewish experience of diaspora, the dispersion of Jews from the Holy Land throughout the ages and throughout the world, influenced in their new homes and influenced by new cultures. Over the centuries, cantors have varied the settings of given texts by improvising and combining modes to create new cantillations for ancient texts. These variations create modal moods for such aspects of worship as forgiveness, yearning, supplication, intercession or pardon, and confession. The Talmud is credited for the liberty to create these variations. It says, "Do not make your prayer predictable." What is remarkable to note is that even with all the movement in cultural change and assimilation, and the variation among sects of Judaism, the basic form and structure of the Jewish worship service and the liturgy and the liturgical repertory through time and across denominations has remained stable. With all the variations among the denominations and congregations throughout the world, the nusach, distinct melody, is tied to the authentic traditional way of a chanting text for a particular group of Jews. All communities have the nusach. It could be a Lithuanian nusach, as in the Dublin Jewish community, or a Sephardic or Moroccan, as found in Spain or in New York City. While the nusach or melodies can vary, the basic structure of the cantillation is ancient and tied to a particular delivery and an order of worship that is found in the Siddur, the Jewish book of prayer. In the 12th century, Judah HaChassid said, "Say your prayer in the melody that is most pleasant and sweet in your eyes. Then you shall pray with proper chavanah, or intention, because the melody will draw your heart after the words that come from your mouth. Prayer in a melody makes the heart weep, and praise in a melody makes the heart happy. Thus you will be filled with love and joy, one that sees your heart, filled in love and joy for the one that sees your heart, and you will bless this one with great love and joy."
This evening, we're very blessed to have representatives of 2 of the Jewish communities here in London, and I would like to invite Dr. David Rosner to come forward. David is the director of the choir at Temple Israel, the Reform Synagogue here in London, and he's going to chant for us some of the portions from the end of the book of Deuteronomy and the beginning of the book of Joshua.
I'm very honored to be a part of this gathering, and it's so nice to see so many people. It's also wonderful to come together with my Abrahamic brothers and sisters, which doesn't often happen. What I'm going to chant is not prayer itself, but it is the high point of a prayer service. In a typical Jewish service, not every one, but on certain days of the week, after a certain amount of liturgy, prayers, the Torah is removed from its enclosure, the ark, and a part of the Torah is read. Then the Torah is put back in the ark, and a part from the prophets is read, which is thematically linked to what was read in the Torah. The two selections I've chosen are unique in that since the first one is the last part of the Torah, the additional part from the prophets that was linked to it is the very first part of the prophets, the book of Joshua. Moses dies, Joshua takes over. Most of you may not know Hebrew, or you may not, even if you do, know my pronunciation, but there's a few words that you might pick up. One is the name of Moses, Moshe. Another is the ritual reference to the name of God, Adonai. And you will also hear the name of Moses' successor, Yehoshua ben Nun, Joshua the son of Nun. Vayal Moshe me'arvot Moav el har Nevo Rosh HaPisga asher al pnei Yericho Vayarehu Adonai et kol haaretz et hagilad Adan v'et kol Naphtali v'et eretz Ephraim u'Menashe v'et kol eretz Yehuda ad hayom ha'acharon v'et ha'negev v'et ha'kikar bikat Yericho ir hatmarim ad Zoar Vayomer Adonai elav zot haaretz asher nishbati liAvraham liYitzchak uLiYakov lemor lezaracha etnena heriticha ve'enecha v'shama lo ta'avor vayamad sham Moshe Eved Adonai, Be'eretz Moav al pi Adonai. Vayikbor oto v'agai be'eretz Moav, mul beit Peor, v'lo yada ish et kevurato ad hayom hazeh. U'Moshe ben me'av yesrim shana b'moto, Lo chahato eino v'lo naslecho vayivku b'nei Yisrael et Moshe be'avot Moav shaloshim yom vayitmu yemei v'chi evel Moshe v'Yehoshua bin Nun Malei ruach chachma ki samach Moshe et yadav alav Vayishmu elav b'nei Yisrael v'ya'asu ka'asher tziva Adonai et Moshe v'lo kam navi od b'Yisrael k'Moshe asher yida'o Adonai panim el panim l'chol ha'otot v'amoftim asher shalacho Adonai la'asot be'eretz Mitzrayim leFaro u'lechol avodav u'lechol artzo u'lechol hayad hachazaka u'lechol hamorah hagadol asher asa Moshe li'enei kol Yisrael. And so ends the 5 books of the Torah with the death of Moses. You may have noticed, if you're musically inclined, that if you were to ascribe a scale to that, it would be, closest scale would be our normal Western major scale. The prophet cantillation, by contrast, uses a minor scale, and you might listen for the difference. In this, the beginning of the book of Joshua, you will also hear the words Moshe, Adonai, and Yehoshua ben Nun as Joshua takes over the leadership of the Israelites. Vayehi acharei mot Moshe eved Adonai vayomer Adonai el Yehoshua ben Nun misharet Moshe lemor Moshe avdi מת, ואתה קום עבור את הירדן הזה, אתה וכל העם הזה, אל הארץ אשר אנוכי נותן להם לבני ישראל. כל מקום אשר תדרוך כל רגליכם, בו לכם נתתיו, כאשר דיברתי אל משה. מהמדבר והלבנון הזה ויד הנהר הגדול נהר פרת, כל ארץ החיתים ויד היום הגדול מבוא השמש יהיה גבולכם. לא יתייצב איש לפניך כל ימי חייך, כאשר הייתי עם משה אהיה עמך, לא ארפך ולא אעזבך. חזק ואמץ כי אתה תנחיל את העם הזה, את הארץ אשר נשבעתי לאבותם לתת להם. רק חזק ואמץ מאוד, לשמור לעשות ככל התורה אשר ציווך משה עבדי, אל תסור ממנו ימין ושמאל, למען תשכיל בכל אשר תלך. לא ימוש ספר התורה הזה מפיך, והגית בו יומם ולילה, למען תשמור לעשות ככל הכתוב בו, כי עוז תצליח את דרכיך ועוז תשכיל. הלא ציוויתיך חזק ואמץ, אל תרוץ ואל תחת, כי עמך אדוני אלוהיך בכל אשר תלך. And so Joshua is launched on his great adventure with the Jewish people. Thank you.
For the second selection of texts from the Hebrew Bible, I'd like to invite Cantor Tracy Schuster to come forward, who's going to share with us some particular portions from biblical texts which exhibit some unique qualities musically that distinguish them from some of the more regular chant.
Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be participating this evening and pleased to represent Congregation Or Shalom at this very special event. As Dr. David Rosner pointed out in the program notes, it's common practice for a congregation to have a person responsible for the reading of Torah. The Baal Koreh, or master of the reading, at Or Shalom is Dr. Beryl Chernick. Others who have studied cantillation chant Torah from time to time on a special occasion to give Dr. Chernick a much-deserved break. Torah chant involves many hours of preparation, as one is required to chant directly from the Torah scroll, which is unpointed. That is to say, there's no punctuation and there are no musical signs. Therefore, chanting Torah requires a great deal of memorization. If anyone is interested to see how this study is undertaken, I have brought my Tikkun study book, as well as a few examples of cantillation systems from another textbook, and I would be pleased to show them to you. The background information that I provided in the program notes for this evening speaks to the many different Jewish chanting traditions and points to their common origin overall. I will continue with the Ashkenazic tradition of cantillation, as it is the one which with which I am most familiar, and will present a few musical systems and detours that are used on special occasions and to highlight important and dramatic passages. The examples of each are extremely brief, but it is my hope that along with a more or maybe not so brief explanation, although I promise to do my best, you will be able to appreciate the richness of biblical chant in Judaism. Let's begin with the Song of the Sea, Shirat Hayam, in Exodus 15, verses 1 to 2. In Philip Birnbaum's Encyclopedia of Jewish Concepts, it is described as a magnificent hymn of praise chanted by Moses and the people of Israel at the Red Sea, containing 3 stanzas of increasing length, giving expression to the mingled feelings of horror, triumph, and gratitude of the slaves pursued by the Egyptian hordes and delivered by their redeeming God. In addition to having been chanted or sung as part of the Torah reading this last Sabbath, which in Jewish tradition has become known as the Sabbath of Song, Shabbat Shirah, the text also forms part of the daily morning service in keeping with the precept to remember the day you left Egypt all the days of your life. On the Sabbath of Song, the congregation stands and participates in the singing to observe a very old practice, to reenact the events of Exodus 15, verse 1, which reads, "Then Moses and the people Israel sang this song." The first verse will be chanted in regular Torah chant as it actually introduces the song, and so it should be reminiscent of Dr. Rosner's Torah chant that he began with. And verse 2 will be chanted with the ancient melody. Az yashir Moshe ubnei Yisrael et hashira hazot la'Adonai vayomeru le'mor Ashira l'Adonai ki ga'o ga sus v'rochvo Rama vayam Ozi v'zimratia vayili lishua Zeli v'aneveu Elohei aviv aromemenhu. The next verses I'll present are from Genesis 22, verses 11 and 12. The high holy days, or days of awe, in which the celebration of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, is a major part, provide a sacred time for prayer, for family gatherings, and for personal reflection, most specifically in terms of our relationship to God and our relationships with one another. We are challenged, especially at this time, to look at ourselves with a most critical eye. Additionally, the portions read from the Torah at this solemn time of the High Holy Days include some very challenging passages. One such passage read on the Jewish New Year is the dramatic biblical narrative of the binding of Isaac in Genesis 22. And I understand and recognize and appreciate that our three faiths see this dramatic event differently, and that's fine. It's understood. I am just presenting here its meaning in Judaism. Genesis 22, recalling the attempted sacrifice by Abraham of Isaac, as he was commanded to present his son as a burnt offering. According to Philip Birnbaum in his Encyclopedia of Jewish Concepts, Jewish tradition teaches that Abraham had been put through horrendously difficult trials, and that this was the 10th and final trial he had to face to prove he was worthy of being the founder of the Jewish people. The high holiday chant is, I think, quite haunting. Abraham has bound his son for the sacrifice and is now stopped by an angel of God from going any farther. Genesis 22, verses 11 and 12.
ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם, אברהם, ויאמר הנני, ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל הנער, ואל תסלו מאומה, כי אתה ידעתי, כי ירא אלוהים אתה, ולא חסכת את בנך, את יחידך ממני.
Lastly, Esther, chapter 1, verses 9 and 10. The story of Esther is the last of the 5 scrolls forming the 3rd division of the Hebrew Bible. It tells the story of Esther, a Jewish girl who used her influence as the queen of Persia to save her people from a general massacre. It is described as a tale of plot and counterplot, showing the downfall of the arrogant and vindication of the innocent. Though the name of God is not mentioned, it's considered a book steeped in faith, as according to Philip Birnbaum, again in his Encyclopedia of Jewish Concepts, it clearly implies that God used Esther and her uncle or cousin Mordecai, we're not sure exactly what he was, as instruments for the deliverance of a persecuted people. In contrast to the High Holy Day chant, Esther is chanted in general more quickly and lightheartedly and even with humor, with the exception of the passages requiring, for example, solemnity. Therefore, the melody ranges from a more joyous chant to the sadness of the mode of lamentations. In Esther 1, verse 9, we read that Queen Vashti, soon to become the former queen, has organized a feast for the women, just as the king holds a feast for the men. In chapter 1, verse 10, the king sends for Vashti, and if we were to read further, we would learn that his intention was to have her paraded for the men, for she was beautiful, very beautiful. But Vashti refused, and then the drama began. Esther, chapter 1, verses 9 and 10.
ושתי המלכה עשתה משתי נשים בית המלכות אשר למלך אחשוורוש. ביום השביעי כטוב לב המלך ביין אמר למהומן בסתר חרבונה בכתב ובגתה זיתר וחרקס שבעת הסריסים המשרתים את פני המלך אחשוורוש.
And here ends our presentation of Jewish biblical chant.
A remarkable couple of musicians who've shared beautifully with us. And now I'd like to invite Marcia back, and now we're going to shift slightly into one of the daughter faiths of Judaism, Christianity.
That was beautiful. And as Murray said, on to Christianity. Sacred chant is integral to Christian history and worship. Since the first century, chant has been the vehicle for expressing praise, articulating psalms, and conveying the scriptures. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Over the centuries, many types of chants have evolved both in the East and the West. Byzantine, Ambrosia, Arabic, Coptic, and Georgian chant are just several examples. Many of these vernacular chants were supplanted by the order of Pope Gregory I, a 6th century bishop of Rome, and the namesake of Gregorian chant, which I'm going to talk a little bit about. Pope Gregory set out to codify and standardize chant in the West as sung Latin text. This is when the church split East and West, and where the chant tradition split as well. When we think of chant in the West, mostly we think of plain chant or Gregorian chant as we know it. Gregorian chant is an unbroken link in not only the sung prayers of early Christians, but back more than 3,000 years to Jewish chant tradition of sacred texts and especially Psalms. Gregorian chant is usually monophonic. That is, it is sung on a single melodic line of text, typically sung unaccompanied. The voice or voices of the cantor and the schola serve as the conveyors of the sacred text. The unembellished melody line became more complex over the centuries, but always the text was primary. The schola, or the choir, delivered the line of text in perfect unison, whether singing in a simple syllabic chant or as one, or more melismatic, as over time chants became. Gregorian chant remained the standard of the liturgy in the West until the Reformation. With the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation, the musical rivers divided into two streams that resulted in new hymns and anthems written specifically for the participation of the masses or congregations. In later centuries, great composers such as Beethoven and Bach, as we know, composed sacred masses for choirs and orchestra that we're singing today. Gregorian chant once again found popularity in the latter part of the 20th century with the release of the CD from a monastery in Spain. Prior to Vatican II in the mid-20th century, Gregorian chant was integral to the worship service of Catholicism around the world. After Vatican II's ruling to move the liturgy to the vernacular of each country, these Latin chants were lost. Today, interest in the chant and other traditions is revived. Tonight we'll hear from two other chant traditions, one ancient in its origin and one ancient in its articulation of sacred text, but more modern in its creation of delivery. Byzantine chant is the liturgical music form used by the Eastern Christian churches that followed the Byzantine Rite. The chant form had its origin in the monophonic vocal music of early Christian church, itself drawing on Jewish and Semitic music and worship forms, and in the 4th to the 6th centuries became formalized at Byzantium and across Byzantine Empire. Byzantine chant has developed over time through an incorporation of early Greek music forms, the development of a form and structured chant tradition, the development of a unique notation, and continuity into modern times as a liturgical music form of many modern churches across the world. In Byzantine music, stanzas are units of paraphrased biblical text that are grouped together by both theme and similar metric composition. As you listen this evening to this exquisite chant, you'll hear beautiful and intricate harmonies and a unique tonal quality and delivery of the chant that is distinctly Eastern in its essence and its feel. As you hear it, you know it comes from the heart and to the heart. We'll also hear from the other chant tradition, Taizé chant. Taizé chant, a cross-denominational Christian chant practice, as you will read in your program, was founded in the 1940s in Burgundy, France, by Brother Roger Louis Schultz. The goal of Taizé was and is to serve the thousands of pilgrims that gather at Taizé for prayer, providing them with chants which enable the active participation of all. Indeed, thousands of pilgrims go to Burgundy every year. Over the years, the number of visitors to Taizé increased, and more young people arrived. And that's when the brothers felt the need to find a way for everyone to join in the prayer and just not simply be observers. At the same time, they felt it was essential to maintain the meditative quality of the prayer. And finally, it was found that chants made up of a few words repeated over and over again made possible a prayer that was both meditative and at the same time accessible. Many of these chants are based on ancient Latin texts. The music is sung in a repetitive fashion, followed by silence, the mantra-like style of Eastern chant practices. Its primary composer, Brother Jacques Berthier, 1923 to 1994, also created chants in a style called ostinato. These were rounds which provided additional possibilities for repetition and for harmonies. An ostinato in a musical unit is sung in continuous repetition and accompanied by other musical elements that are continually chanted. The result is beautiful melodic lines and harmonies, which you'll hear this evening. The Taizé community sees the chant as a means to an end, devotion to God. Participation is stressed over performance. This participation has transcended the boundary of the Church of Reconciliation in Burgundy. It was a question of continuity that led the community to launch, together with the young pilgrims, a pilgrimage of trust on earth, involving meetings and visits on every continent. In the context of the pilgrimage, large gatherings regularly bring together many of the churches of Europe, North America, and other continents for special evenings of Taizé chanting. It's actually part of the chanting that I teach. I teach chanting as an entrance into meditation using chants from all world traditions, and Taizé chanting is part of it. Very, very accessible and very participatory. As you'll hear this evening, Taizé chant is extremely beautiful and engaging in its seeming simplicity.
This evening, those two Christian musical traditions will be represented by groups, ensembles who are going to be sharing that music with us this evening. The first are members of the Byzantine Choir St. John of Damascus, who come to us from Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox community. They're here this evening led by Economos Father Elias Drosos, and we invite them to come forward and chant to the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Before we begin, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to come here for us to share a little sample of our Byzantine heritage, not only in our architecture, but also in our music. Within the Greek Orthodox Church, the Greek that you'll be hearing tonight is Hellenistic Greek, which is the Greek that we only use within the context of our church services when rendering and intoning readings from St. Paul's epistle lessons, from the Gospels, the Old Testament, and other various hymns throughout our church, as the one which we'll hear tonight, which is in plagal first mode.
Our
The second tradition that we'll be hearing this evening will be in some of the music of the Taizé community in France, which will be interpreted for us by members of Christ the King Parish community here at the University of Western Ontario, led by Janet Liu.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this invitation to present two very short chants to you from the Taizé tradition, the text of which comes from ancient liturgical text. One is Ubi Caritas et Amor, where there is love and charity, God is there. And the second one will be Veni Sancte Spiritus, very simply, Come Holy Spirit. And as Marcia had mentioned, this is sung over and over again. We won't do the actual real, we'll give you a small taste of what that's like. And the key to the aesthetic of Taizé music is this idea of layering. So there's a layering of voices, a layering with instruments, and oftentimes on top of that, there's a cantor that chants various texts on top. So in the second chant, that's where you'll hear where that's demonstrated.
Holy Caritas.
And now, as we shift into the third branch of the Abrahamic family, the Muslim tradition, I invite Marcia back up to lead us into an introduction to that branch of the family tree.
We're shifting gears this evening pretty quickly. So, the chant of Islam is rooted in the oral transmission of the Quran, handed to the Prophet Muhammad as the messenger of God. The word Quran means to recite or recitation. Muhammad's first prophetic vision and subsequent revelations of the sacred text were auditory. Quote, Islam is viewed as a prophetic tradition, with Muhammad falling in line of the prophets including Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. As a sacred text, the Quran is understood by its adherents as a direct transmission from God to Muhammad. The Quran is written in Arabic and learned not just as a memorized text, but as an embodied sound. As students learn the surahs, the sections or chapters of the Quran, they are not simply learning something by rote, but rather interiorizing the inner rhythm, the sound patterns, and the textural dynamics, taking it into heart in the deepest manner. In Islam, an exclusive and exquisite melodic rhythmic system has been developed to maintain the abiding intrinsic orality of the Quran, to sound the divine word, and to articulate the uniqueness differing from any other words or music. The sonic form stands in the conceptual opposition to all non-religious musical sounds, both vocally and especially instrumental. Some of the Islamic tradition may consider secular music spiritually suspect, hence, Quranic recitation, even if it sounds musical, is not conceived as music. It falls into a permitted category of chant or cantillation, where musical features are subordinate to the religious text and function. Katrina Nelson, in her book, The Study of the Art of Reciting Quran, offers the following. The prominence of recitation of chant and its characteristic sound may be explained by three widely recognized concepts of the Quran. 1, the Quran is meant to be heard. Therefore, the most common means of transmission is oral. 2, it is of divine and immutable beauty. Therefore, listeners approach it with expectation and heightened experience. 3, it is held to be the last of God's revelations. Therefore, it must be preserved, and high value is placed on its accurate transmission. An elaborate system of recitation, tajweed, was developed to assure this accuracy of the transmission of the beautifully structured text of the Quran, and to help those who chant and those who listen to fully benefit from the transformational power. The call to worship, the adhan, which we will be hearing this evening, can be heard in cities around the world. 5 times a day, the appointed Mezzouin calls worshipers to gather from the minaret of the mosque, reciting Allahu Akbar, God is great. Islam, through the study and recitation of the Quran and its worship practice, is at once a divine injunction to establish order in human society and within the human soul, and at the same time to make possible the interior life, to prepare the soul to return unto the Lord and enter paradise, which is none other than the divine beatitude, unquote.
We're very grateful and fortunate this evening to have with us two highly trained reciters from the Muslim tradition. And this evening, the adhan, the call to prayer, will be recited for us by Amin al-Najjar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Prayer is an integral part of a Muslim's life. We pray 5 times a day. That is not to mention what I'm going to call bonus prayers. And of course, accompanied with every prayer, we call for prayer. We sound the adhan. And it changes in one instance only in the morning where we say, Salatu khayrun min an-nawm. Prayer is better than sleep. So kind of pushing us to wake up early in the morning, alhamdulillah. So this would be what I would be calling at the Isha prayer, which is an hour ago. But yeah, Bismillah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح.
أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Remarkable. Thank you.
I'm really sorry to butt in like this. Okay, my name is Munir Qasim. I'm the Imam of the Islamic Center of Southwest Ontario on Pond Mills. I just wanted to explain a little bit. You probably wondered why our mu'adhin was putting his hands on his ears. Throughout the years, we didn't have the luxury of microphones and sound systems and things that can carry our voice for long distances. And that's why a minaret was introduced to the architecture of the mosque. The first mosque ever built by the Prophet had no minarets because the community was in the immediate vicinity of the mosque. So if the mu'adhin would stand on any high spot, the voice would reach everybody. But with time, they needed the minarets so that the voice would reach everybody. And when you put your hands on your ears and you move it with your thumbs, you tend to resonate your voice and bring the tune and the melody in a more effective manner. And Amin actually did it in a subtle way. If you noticed when he was saying hasten to the prayers, he turned slightly to the right. And when he said hasten to the good deeds, hayya ala al-falah, he turned to the left. And that is why to reach people on the right and to reach people on the left. I would like to recognize someone who would have been here as well, but because of the shortage of time and because we wanted an adult voice to be representative of the Islamic faith, so he is now listening because he is training. And actually at the Islamic Center of Southwest Ontario, quite often I ask him to give the adhan because at a very early age he developed that ability. And that is Imad Badwi. Can you stand up, please? Can you come stand beside me here? I want everybody to know. Okay. So I just want to recognize Imad. He has a beautiful voice, but because of the shortage of time, maybe in our next event he will, be our guest. Okay, thank you very much, Imad. Okay. And, if I may introduce the second segment, because I know that if you would mention the name, you would have great difficulty as I'm looking at our next guest. By the way, just I'll tell you his name once, twice, three times so that you know that it's a big challenge. Okay, his name is Abdullah Ad-Ghaythir. Did I say it? Yes, I did. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you to mention it again. He will be giving us a recitation of the Quran. And if you still remember in the introduction that people who commit the entire Quran to memory are held in great esteem throughout the Muslim world. And I have to say that there are millions of people who commit the entire Quran, and I say the entire Quran, it's a huge, about 700 pages, into memory, letter for letter, word for word. And the latest statistic, I have to say, we were very excited that the youngest to do that a month ago was announced, a 3-year-old boy from Syria. We ask the Almighty God to really bring peace to this country now that has been suffering for quite some time. 3 years old. Now, our brother Abdullah Ad-Ghaythir commits the entire Quran to memory. He knows all of the Quran by heart. And during the month of Ramadan, he leads the prayers at the London Muslim Mosque on Oxford Street, where thousands of people gather every night for 30 days to finish the entire Quran. So he will be giving us a sample of the recitation of that Quran. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Munir, for your introduction and for your praise. Yeah, I'm going to give a recitation about Surah Al-Hashr, which is number 59, verses 18 till the end of the surah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم.
Inspiring. Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Marcia up in the spirit of this evening to offer a reflection that gathers together some of what we've been reflecting on this evening and gives us an opportunity to share a little chant together. Marcia.
Exquisite. This has been a wonderful evening, a really special opportunity to share the beautiful and diverse chant of the three Abrahamic faiths. It's been an opportunity to understand a bit more about the unique expressions of our sacred texts. Indeed, while the chant, as you have witnessed, is unique, the sacred languages and styles of expression diverse. These are at the same time what is common among traditions. Whether in Hebrew or Latin or Greek or Arabic or Hindu or Sanskrit, the expression of our heart's love or supplication to the divine is common among faith traditions across the world. In the contemporary world, there is great interest in chant, and as a result of this global and digital age, it has transcended ritual boundaries. this evening is an example. But with such things as Taizé chanting events in churches across the world, in recordings of Gregorian and all other kinds of manner of chant, Hindu kirtan concerts, sacred Hebrew chanting circles, recordings of sacred Arabic chants as the Adhan, and so much more. In the contemporary world of chant, there is an interconnection with the East influencing the West, using chant as an entry into deeper contemplation and joy. All the manifestations, even those that have transcended ritual boundaries, are rooted in the core chant traditions and practices. Tonight, we have had that opportunity to experience the beauty and the mystery of these chants, to share our antiquity through our chant lineage. But there is something, in my opinion, much deeper and more significant that underlies the importance of such a gathering as this evening. While Brother Wayne Teasdale has spoken of this as the age of interspirituality, where globalization and transportation has provided us with an opportunity to know each other in new ways, in Jonathan Sacks' Dignity of Difference, Rabbi Sacks says he has taken the idea of globalization a step further. I'd like to quote Rabbi Sacks, and in doing so, I think you'll understand the deeper impact of our coming together this evening. To quote, "The world's great faiths arose in the so-called axial age of civilization long before the rise of modernity. Yet, there is much that a range of religious voices can add to the collective conversation on where we are or should be going. Faced with fateful choices, humanity needs wisdom, and religious traditions alongside the great philosophies are our richest source and our greatest hope. They are sustained reflections of humanity's place in nature and what constitute the proper goals of society and an individual life. They build communities, shape lives, and tell stories that explain us to ourselves. They frame the rituals that express our aspirations and identities," unquote. In uncharted territory, as certainly we are in this postmodern world, one needs a compass, and the great faiths have and can continue to provide that compass to unite us rather than divide us. When we understand not just our differences, but where we meet, we can begin to chart the course for humanity in significant ways. Tonight, we have met in an evening of chant, which I have been deeply honored and blessed to participate in. I'd like to end the evening with a meditation for peace called Harmony, which I wrote following the events of 9/11 as I drove across the country from California to New York with 3 of my healthcare colleagues. It was a profound journey, and during one of my typical middle-of-the-night meditations, it came to me. I think maybe it's timelier than ever, though I'll let you be the judge. But at the end, there is a chant that I will sing, and then I will ask you to join me. It's very simple, so you won't have any problem with it. So we can all sing together, a communal chant now, uniting our voices in one. Harmony. And I invite you, if you're comfortable and you want to close your eyes and just really use this as a visualization, then please do so. This is a meditation for peace. Visualize harmony. Visualize it everywhere. See a softening of the Earth's atmosphere, how it floats and gently falls to earth, embracing all inhabitants with a luminescent light that quivers and shivers like moonlight on the water. See the entire earth and all that inhabit it breathing easily and gently as one. It's a quiet, easy, loving breath. Just keep on breathing. Now see the trees in the forests, the grasses of the meadows, the mountains, deserts, and all the creatures. All species are singing a new song. They are singing it together. There is a new order, one of gentleness, effortless ease. You can feel it. It is everywhere you turn. It is harmony. Everywhere and in everything, there is a new order, a settling of the dust. Life has become quiet. Life has become profoundly meaningful. Everything is lighter. Everything is easier than it has ever been before. It is easier to breathe. It is easier to smile. It is easier to move. It is easier to love. There is a restored simplicity. There is a restored gentleness. There is a new world order. It is harmony. Visualize this and keep on visualizing this until it is so. May harmony descend upon the earth and peace and love prevail. Join me. May harmony descend upon the earth and peace and love prevail. May harmony descend upon the earth and peace and love prevail. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you this evening.
I think many of you would agree that this has been a remarkable evening on many, many levels. A rare evening, which is unfortunate. It's a shame that we have to organize these things so far in advance and plan them out so carefully. But we hope that this can be a stepping stone to much more of this in the future. This evening we have heard the tiniest fragments from three of the world's great traditions, not nearly enough, but I suspect that it has probably raised some questions and perhaps some feedback from some of you who are here this evening. So we'd like to allow some time, if you have particular questions that you'd like to address to anyone who has been part of this evening, any of the presenters, any of those who have recited or chanted this evening. I suspect any of them would be happy to respond to your questions. I have a microphone here if anybody would like to raise a question, if you'd like to stand up, and I'll hand you the microphone so that everyone can hear.
They always have women cantors in the synagogues. I just wondered. I didn't know that.
I think the first certified cantor, invested cantor, was, if not in 1976, perhaps 1985, a cantor, Barbara Osfeld. So it's very recent that there are women who function as cantors. And they would be cantors in the Reform movement, the Reconstructionist movement, and the conservative movement as well. Less so in Canada, more in the States.
Anyone else? Just a question about music and Islam. And just wanted to get it clear in that what your recitation is not, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not interpreted as being musical, but rather it's reverent to your faith. So it's not music. Would that be correct?
Just to clarify, musical instruments are not allowed in the practice of the Islamic faith. They are not part of the worship in Islam. However, there is melody that accompanies the recitation, and there are different styles of recitation depending on which part of the world the reciters come from. There are also different styles of rendering the adhan, for example. You will find in two cities in Saudi Arabia that are 400 kilometers apart, the two major centers, Mecca and Medina. When you hear the adhan coming from Mecca, it is different from the adhan coming from Medina, different from the one coming from Damascus or in Cairo. So there is melody, but no musical instruments that accompany that melody.
Is there anyone else?
I can probably do it without the mic. Are the pauses in the call to prayer, are they a legislated length?
I'm afraid it's a very difficult question to answer. I believe it's there mainly for me to catch my breath.
Such honesty.
Because my heart really goes out to you, I would like to know how long the services are during Ramadan.
Now, on behalf. Now, in Ramadan, almost the entire day, worshippers fill the mosques for different services, starting, listen to this, from pre-dawn. And when we say pre-dawn, there are night prayers. There are people who come during the night and they have special prayers. Then they have their morning meal, which is also before dawn. Then they have the dawn prayer, and then the 5 daily prayers leading into the night prayer, which is followed by 1/10 of, or I should say, yes, 1/10 of the Quran every night, because the Quran is made of 30 sections. Every night, a section. So it is 1/30, not 1/10. 1/30 of the Quran is recited by the Imam, who memorizes the entire Quran, and the worshippers are following behind them. Now, in that summer, when the sunset is very late in the day, and an hour and 15 minutes after that is the night prayer. So once we finish the night prayer and start the recitation, that may take us into after midnight, only to wake up a couple of hours after that and start another day. But I have to say that people may say on an empty stomach during the day and worship, but it is the spirituality of the occasion that keeps the worshippers going without feeling, that physical stress, so to speak. So it's a celebration. We call it a celebration for an entire month.
Are there any other questions or comments, any feedback on this evening, any reaction anybody would like to offer to what they've heard?
I just wanted to first of all thank you all for sharing your chants with all of us, and to say how much I was impressed by it and inspired. And I just wondered, I never want to intrude on any of your formal worship, but is there any time where we could get more as members of the public, when it's open to people to come in and hear some more of your chanting, and the time when you're not, obviously, formal worshiping or anything like that? And that was all the big traditions we were tonight.
Okay, well, we'll start with our Jewish representatives.
David and Tracy, would you like to answer that?
Anyone is always welcome to the services at Temple Israel, which generally occur either Friday night or Saturday morning, Saturday at 10 o'clock, Friday night usually 7:30, but Saturday morning at 10 o'clock would be a typical Sabbath or Shabbat service, and you will hear at least our modern version of song and some chanting of prayer and reading the Torah.
We're fortunate tonight to have Rabbi Catherine Clark from Congregation Or Shalom, and she can best answer this question.
Our Saturday morning services are at 9:30. Most people get there around 10:15. And you're welcome to come. But if you're going to be bringing a large group, let us know so that we're ready for it in terms of the snack we serve afterwards.
At Holy Trinity Orthodox Church, it's best to attend services to be able to hear the fullest immersions of Byzantine music. We have divine liturgies scheduled throughout the weekdays from 9 till 10:30. There are certain higher holidays where we also have a matin service called Orthros that begins at 9, and then it's followed by divine liturgy from 10 until 12. And again, all are welcome to attend the services and throughout the weekdays and on the weekends on Sundays.
With regard to Taizé, King's College has regular prayer centered around the prayer of Taizé. Is there some material available at the back? Michael, would you?
No, it's a Taizé gathering every first, third, and fifth Monday at 7 or 7:30 in the chapel across the street. And then Brother Emil, who's one of the monks of Taizé, is coming here next month to maybe community a day of prayer and an evening. So we actually received confirmation from him this week. It'll be in our bulletin. So again, if you want to call Kings, ask for campus ministry or place for the priest and unwork, and you can get all the details on the Taizé event. So that's happening in
March the 4th, I think?
Yes.
Yes. Soon.
And if you could come from the Muslim tradition.
Yes, before that, I want to thank Tracy Schuster for giving me a head start to be introduced to my colleague, Rabbi Catherine Clark, who has been asked to be a chaplain with the London Police Services Board, at which I'm the Muslim chaplain, so here we are meeting. We've been exchanging emails, and we've been trying to have a lunch for all the chaplains, and guess what? We have canceled it 3 times so far because of our schedules, but we will get to have lunch together. Now at the London Muslim Mosque and the Islamic Center of Southwest Ontario, the mosque being on Oxford Street, and don't tell me there's anyone in London who doesn't know where the mosque is on Oxford Street. And the Islamic Center of Southwest Ontario, which is tucked in the southeastern corner of London, immediately after the 401 overpass on Pond Mills. We have our Friday prayers at 12:30, according to winter time. And I can tell you there is hardly a Friday where there's no one from outside the Islamic faith who is not in attendance, which means that everybody is welcome to come and listen to the what we call the speech part, the sermon, the khutbah, and then attend for the prayers and ask any questions you want. Tomorrow's Friday, if you want. Pardon? It's funny that I'm asked this question all the time. What else? No, it is in English all the time because even though the Quran is in Arabic, but the sermon is in English, there are certain segments that are recited in the original Quranic language, which is Arabic, but the rest of the sermon is all in English.
Wonderful to see tonight, bringing people together on all kinds of levels. Yes.
I just want to say that Rabbi Deborah Dressler of Temple Israel would have been here tonight, except she was struck down by the flu, and she regrets very much that she couldn't make it. The prayer about Rabbi Dressler, and partly in answering your question about women as cantors in Judaism, Rabbi Dressler will be talking Monday night in the Jewish Community Center at 7:30 in a program called GEM, Jewish Educational Manna. It's for intellectual food for the wandering Jew. And she's speaking on four actually modern women rabbis, starting with the first rabbi ordained in modern times, 1972, and going on to 76, 87, etc. So the interest of women as rabbis, Rabbi Dressler was talking about that, she recovered by that, I hope, on Monday night at the Jewish Community Center, 536 Huron Street at Adelaide at 7:30. I know that's a little off topic because it's not about music, but it does sort of fit in with your question. Is there anyone else?
All right. Well, it has been a remarkable, and actually for Kings, and I think for our communities, a historic evening this evening. But it has only been possible because of the support and the encouragement of the local religious communities here in London and their leaders, many of whom are here with us this evening. We're very grateful to them and to the representatives of the Muslim, Christian, and Jewish communities who have so kindly agreed to be with us this evening, for offering some beautiful glimpses into what chant and recitation sound like in the daily lives of their respective communities. A special thanks to the Principal of Kings, Dr. David Sylvester, to Father Michael Bayshard, the Chaplain of Kings and the University, the staff of the Office of Campus Ministry at the college, who provide all of the logistical and administrative support for the work of the Center for Jewish Catholic Muslim Learning. If you would like to learn any more about the center and its activities, you can check out King's website under Academics and then under the tab for Centers at King's. Please feel free to contact us if you'd like to be advised of any future events and added to our email list. And thank you to all of you, especially this evening, who have come out in such unpleasant weather, winter weather again, to share this evening with us, to be moved and inspired and informed. We hope that you have found this evening's event to be life-giving and enriching, and we look forward to welcoming you back to King's many more times in the future. Thank you to all of you, and please drive safely as you go home tonight. Good night, and thank you. For those of you who are interested, I suspect that all of our guests would be happy to speak with you and answer any questions that you might have informally. Thank you. I have to go and hand in some thank yous. Excuse me. I'll be right back.